Okay, here we go. I'm just gonna little quick rundown on how to play Preservation. Um, I'll start with your basic healing spells. You have 6 basic healing spells on Pres that you're going to use. Technically 7 with Living Flame, because as you know, you can Living Flame offensively and defensively. You can use it on players and you can use it on enemies. You're almost never going to hardcast Living Flame, like ever. So I won't talk about that. We'll just go to the most important ability in Preservation's kit. It is called Echo. So Echo costs 2 essence. As you see here, 2 essence go off. It heals you for, I got crit healed for 150k, and it gives me this buff for 20 seconds. It replicates 105% of the next healing spell. So if I Verdant Embrace myself, you'll see it heals twice. Heals me the initial heal, 285k, and then 105% of that is 300k. So that's how Echo works. Keep in mind, you can cleave heal all your abilities by echoing other players. So let's say I echo myself, for instance, and I Verdant Embrace this guy. You'll see he got healed for 269k because he got the initial heal, and I got the echoed heal for 300k. Now, if I had echoed him too, and I echo myself, he'll get healed twice. So he gets healed twice for 100% and then 105%, and I get healed for the 105%. So that's how you cleave heal with Echo. So you put echoes on people and you Verdant Embrace them, and then the Verdant Embrace heals everybody. So that is the main way that you cleave heal on Preservation of Ogre. Another interesting way that you can use Echo is obviously with Reversion. Reversion, like I talked about earlier, is renew. It's just a heal over time. It does no instant healing. However, there's a talent called Golden Hour. Reversion instantly heals for 15% of the damage done in the last 5 seconds. So this functions as Death Strike. So the more damage you've taken in the last 5 seconds, the more you get healed for. So the sooner you heal that damage, the sooner you react to it, the more healing you'll do. If you have an Echo up, you get double Golden Hour value. So you get 30% of the damage that was taken in the last 5 seconds. Additionally, when you echo reversion, you get 2 reversions. So if I echo myself and then I press reversion, I now have 2 different reversion hots. So it doubles the hot and it doubles the golden hour healing. Another thing you need to know about reversion is there's a talent here called Grace Period. Your healing's increased by 10% on targets with reversion. This functions the same way all healers do, right? Like Holy Priest does more healing when Renew's active, Shaman does more healing when Riptide's active, Mistweaver does more healing when Renewing Mist is active. Same kind of concept, right? You're going to do more healing on targets that have reversion on them, and it double dips with Echo. So if I Echo reversion, now I'm receiving 20% more healing, not 10%. So keep that in mind as well. The next ability, we'll talk about Verdant Embrace now, even though we just kind of used it. So Verdant Embrace, you know how this functions with augmentation. It charges you at the target and heals them. Verdant Embrace does 2 other things. So 2 other important things. It places a buff on people called Lifebind. Lifebind temporarily bonds your life with an ally, causing healing on either partner to heal for 40% more. So you're splitting your healing. It's a 5-second buff. It doesn't last super long, but you just have to keep in mind that when you have life binds up, you're going to do a lot more healing spread to other people for that short period that you have the life binds active. There is a very cool interaction with life bind and your major defensive cooldown, healing cooldown, which is Emerald Communion, but I'll get to that at the end of the fucking video. So, Verdant Embrace puts life bind on the target. The other thing it does is it gives you a buff called Call of Ysera that lasts for, I believe, 20 seconds. 20 seconds, yep. So Call of Ysera is essentially Soul of the Forest and Restoration Druid. When you Swift Mend, your next Wild Growth, Regrowth heals for 100% more. Same thing here. Verdant Embrace increases the healing of Dream Breath by 40% or your next Living Flame by 100%. You're going to use this on Dream Breath 99% of the time. Keep in mind, Verdant Embrace has a shorter cooldown than Dream Breath, so in between Dream Breaths, you could technically Verdant Embrace Living Flame. You don't really need to do that very often, though. You generally have the healing. That's not something you're going to have to do, but keep in mind, it does affect Living Flame as well. So those are the 2 main important things that make Verdant Embrace really important for preservation, is these 2 buffs. On top of the healing it does. It's just an instant heal that does a ton of healing. Next ability. So Spirit Bloom. This is a simple one. Spirit Bloom is an Empower ability, and it is just Chain Heal. So the more you charge it, the more targets it heals. If you do level 1, it heals 1 person. If you do level 2, heals 2, level 3, 3, and so forth. So it heals 4 targets. Currently, the tier set, the 2 set for preservation right now makes Spirit Bloom apply a 40% extra healing hot, which makes it a much better button. I find I don't very frequently press Spirit Bloom, just because I don't need to. But that's an ability you have as well, and it's definitely better with the tier set. So Spirit Bloom's just Chain Heal. Next ability, Temporal Anomaly. We talked about this a little earlier. Temporal Anomaly is like Frozen Orb. You send out this orb. It puts a shield on people, small shield for 77k. It also applies a nerfed echo. So 45% echo instead of 105% echo, which you get from hard casting, right? This is obviously just good for getting echoes out. The only time I temporal anomaly is when I want to get reversions out, because reversions are really good hot to have on people, and obviously it does more healing, makes you do more healing. But the reason you want all those reversions out is because of Life Spark. So reversion healing has a chance to increase your living flame, make an instant cast, and deal 50% more healing and damage. Stacks up to 2 chimes. This was the tier set this season that made Living Flame do a ton of damage. So you want to generally Temporal Anomaly and Reversion almost all the time, because A, it procs your tier that Living Flame, which does a lot of damage, and also Reversion has a chance to give you Essence Break for Preservation. And when you Echo Reversion, you just cast technically 6 reversions, and so all of those reversions have a chance to give you Essence Break. So if you need Essence Breaks to like press Disintegrates to do damage, for instance, that's a good way to have that. The other way I use Temporal Anomaly is before I Dream Breath, so I can get double Dream Breath on people. I generally don't use it for anything else, other than one niche situation, which I'll talk about at the end. So, last ability is Dream Breath. This is like your main big heal. Dream Breath is an empower ability that functions like Fire Breath. So, based on how much you charge it, it increases or decreases the initial heal and increases or decreases the hot. So a level 1 Dream Breath is a long heal over time and a small instant heal. Just like Fire Breath, level 1 Fire Breath is small instant damage, big hot, or big dot. Dream Breath is the same way. So you never, ever fully charge Dream Breath. You don't do it. There's no reason to do it. The hot's super powerful, and you want the hot to last as long as possible. 95% of the time, I 1-point Dream Breath. I do this. 1 point. That's it. Every now and then, I'll 2-point Dream Breath if I feel like I need it, but it's very infrequent that I 2-point Dream Breath because I value the hot over the instant healing. And keep in mind, when you Dream Breath, it does have an instant heal, and you're going to do it off of Verdant Embraces, so you get a Lifebind heal as well. So that's Dream Breath. Dream Breath is like a big hot, and like I said, when you Echo Dream Breath, you get 2 versions of the hot. So not only does the initial heal do twice as much, but you get 2 versions of the hot, which is really, really important. Okay? That's why you always want a Temporal Anomaly before you Dream Breath. So, next thing we'll talk about is cooldowns. So, Preservation has 4 cooldowns, healing spell cooldowns. First one is Rewind. So, Rewind is essentially Revival, a shittier version of Revival. So, it functions the same way Golden Hour does in that it heals damage that you've taken over the last 5 seconds. On everybody. So you really are only going to get value out of it if you press it reactively, or if you know that you've stored up a bunch, like you've taken a bunch of big hits over the last 5 seconds and you've kind of healed some of it, but now you have no more healing. You can press Rewind then as well. You have to respond to damage with Rewind. If you, let's say everybody takes a bunch of damage and they're all chilling at 20% health, and then you don't press a healing spell for 5 seconds and they're all still alive, and then you press Rewind, it's not going to do anything. You have to press it reactively in the same way Golden Hour has to be pressed reactively. So it's Rewind, or it's Revival. It's a shittier Revival, basically. 3-minute cooldown. Your next cooldown is Time Dilation. Time Dilation is essentially, it's like Sack, but it staggers. So I often say when you're on your Brewmaster, I'm going to stagger the stagger. This is what that is. Time Dilation is a 1-minute cooldown. It stores up... It's a 50% wall. It stores up the damage, the other 50% of the damage, and extends it over time. So it's just stagger. So the player still takes the damage, but it's spread out over time so that you respond to it a little better. This is for like big tank hits, or if someone's going to get one shot, you press Time Dilation. The next cooldown is Emerald Communion. So Emerald Communion's like your big, massive heal. It also restores mana. Keep that in mind. It's good if you're ooming to press. You can cast it while stunned, feared, sheeped, or silenced. So if you get like stunned by a mob, or if you like step in a fear circle or some shit, you can press Emerald Communion. Keep that in mind as well. Emerald Communion is a huge heal that ticks like every 0.5 seconds, and it ticks you for like a third of your health bar. So it's a ton of healing over like 5 seconds or something like that, over 4 seconds. So it ticks every 0.5 seconds over 4 seconds. It does a ton of healing, and it spills its overhealing over. So if you're topped and it ticks, it spills that healing over to the next lowest person in the group. There is a cool interaction with Lifebind and Emerald Communion. So, like, remember, Lifebind spreads 40% of your healing to the other targets that have Lifebind. If you, let's say, I echo 2 people and Verdant Embrace the third. Now we have 4 Lifebinds, and then if I Emerald Communion, that all of that healing is going to be healing and is also going to be spilling that healing over, and it's going to be spilling over again. So this is Emerald Communion with Light Binds is essentially like AoE. It's like we can't die button. It's immortality, right? It's like a ton of fucking healing. It's insane. So that's kind of a cool, very fulfilling interaction is Life Binds with Emerald Communion. And then lastly, your main like healing cooldown on preservation is an ability called Stasis. So Stasis is a very unique ability. It stores your next 3 helpful spells for 30 seconds, and then you can unleash them again at any time. So the way I generally use Stasis in PvE is like this. I will do something like let's say big damage is about to come out. It's the second boss in like Ruby Life Pools, and that big elemental is being summoned, and he's about to do his big AoE. So I get 3 echoes out on people. The moment the AoE goes out, I Verdant Embrace myself. 4 people get healed. Now I Stasis. That starts the buff. You'll see these are the 3 spells that can be locked. This is a weak aura. I Temporal Anomaly so that everybody has echoes. Then I Dream Breath. Now everybody has double Dream Breath. This third spell doesn't really matter too much, but with the tier set, Spirit Bloom's a good choice. You can 4-point Spirit Bloom. That puts a ton of healing on people, and now you have these 3 spells stored. And then when you want to release it, you just press the button again to release it. Keep in mind, the stored Dream Breath doesn't maintain the Call of Ysera buff, so you're going to want to Verdant Embrace again before you release it to get the buff. You could technically you could Stasis, Verdant Embrace, Temporal Anomaly, Dream Breath. That's something you could technically do, and that way you don't ever have to worry about not getting the Dream Breath buff. But I prefer to just have the Spirit Bloom in there as well. I don't know. That's just something I just find I do that. But technically, you could also like Stasis, Verdant Embrace, Temporal Anomaly, Dream Breath. That's another way you can use that. So that's your big cooldown is preservation. If there's some kind of bleed that is on less than a 30-second cooldown that goes on the tank, you can use Cauterize in Stasis and like caught him and then release the Stasis once the bleed goes out again, and it will caught him again. Same thing with like the spell. Technically, you could Stasis spells. I've never done that. You don't really have to do that, but just keep in mind that that's something you can do. When you use Stasis, I would advise you to use all the abilities you want to use in the Stasis one after the other, because let's say you like Stasis and press 2 abilities, and then you forget the third, and then you like echo someone or do some dumb shit like you reversion someone. Now that's stored in the Stasis, or like you dispel someone during Stasis. That's bad because now it dispels in the Stasis and it's not going to do anything, and you wasted an ability, which is like not the end of the world. But just keep in mind, like when I Stasis, I make sure my next 3 abilities are the abilities I want in the Stasis so that it ends, so that I can keep pressing my other abilities that I don't want to be in the Stasis without it filling it up, if that makes sense. Cool. So those are your cooldowns. Also, you have Rescue. You know what Rescue is, though, because you've been playing AUG. So I won't really talk about just like, obviously, you have your personals, you have Obsidian Scales, you have Renewing Blaze, you have Rescue, you have Zephyr, you have Cauterizing Flame, all that stuff. You know what those abilities do. So I'm not going to talk about those. I'll touch on damage real quick. Damage isn't going to be too much different than Augmentation. Honestly, a lot of your damage is going to be doing this. Press and Live in Flame over and over again. You'll be surprised how much you just do this. So you have Disintegrate for preservation. It's an essence spender. It costs 3 essence. I try to only press Disintegrate when I have essence breaks, because doing this, it's a lot of essence, and if I need to echo people after that, it gets really awkward because I don't have the essence to do it. So I try to only do it when I have essence breaks, unless I know no one's going to take any damage. Then I'll like, just fucking YOLO send it. Like, I'll send it right here. Fucking who cares? It's going to regen before I need to do anything meaningful anyway. So obviously you have Fire Breath, Deep Breath, Disintegrate, and Living Flame. Those are your abilities. You have Azure Strike too, but you only press that when you're on the move just to fill the global. You almost never press Azure Strike. So, functions very similarly to Augmentation, except there's a few differences. Temporal Anomaly, Reversion, puts reversions on everybody and gives you essence breaks and gives you procs of your instant living flame, which helps you do damage. You're going to want those reversions out, A, just because it's healing, but B, it procs your living flames and helps you do more damage. So now that I have a proc, right, I have a living flame proc here. Let's say I ran into the pole, a reversion of the temporal anomaly. Now I'm going to like 5-point or fully fire breath into the instant living flame, deep breath, and now I'll just keep pressing living flames here. And disintegrates when I have essence break. I'll press this here. Why not? Fuck it. We're probably running out of reversion, so I'll temp anomaly reversion again. If you have Bellarillos and my staff, that's when I would press these buttons too. You're not gonna have those though, I don't think. So it doesn't. Oh, maybe you do have this staff actually. So you would like staff there too, right? And that's it. So you want to go. The main thing is like you want to go into fire breath with an instant living flame because it's leaping flames, so it's going to hit 5 other targets, and if it's going to hit 5 other targets, you want that living flame to do 50% more damage, right? So you want to make sure you go into that fire breath window with your leaping flames and instant living flame. Obviously, you just want to keep reversions up then because, like, see, for instance, here, this reversion will probably give me an essence break that I can use on disintegrate, and it will keep me getting the buff. So that's how you do damage. It's as simple as that. Rotationally, so like I said, if we have a boss fight coming up, so like I'll pre-temporal anomaly to get the ability on cooldown. Now the boss is going, we're attacking the boss. A big boss ability is coming out in 6 seconds. I'll reversion all those echoes, and then I'll put 3 more echoes out on people. 2, 3. Now all the DPS have echoes. The damage comes out. I verdant embrace myself. Stasis. Temporal anomaly again. Dream breath. I can also spirit bloom off this as well just to fill the stasis. There you go. Now that's a ton of healing. We respond to that damage. I have a full stasis and we can keep doing damage. This next temporal anomaly you can use on reversion again. Bam. Okay? Because you want those reversions out. Like I said, you want the reversions out for grace period healing and for these instant living flame procs. Another thing you can do is if a lot of damage is coming out and you have an instant living flame proc, you can do something like this. You could pre-fire breath, and then when the damage comes out, you can heal yourself with this living flame, and it'll cleave to your allies. Because Leaping Flames cleaves to an ally or an enemy based on whether or not you press it offensively or defensively. If there's only one enemy and you press it offensively, it will automatically defensively cleave the ones that spill over. So if there's one enemy and you have a 4 cleave, one of them will hit the enemy and the other 4 will hit your allies. Keep in mind, this also doesn't proc Call of Ysera. So if you have a Call of Ysera buff, it won't consume it unless you cast it at an ally. If you cast Leaping Flames at an enemy and the other 4 heal your allies, it does not consume Call of Ysera. So you can still then Dream Breath off of that. And that's it. That's like the basics of it. This ability here, Life Giver's Flame, makes Fire Breath a huge heal, especially when it hits 5 targets. So if people are dying and you want to do damage and you're like, I'm channeling Fire Breath, you guys are dead, good luck. You can just keep channeling it because it's going to do a ton of healing when you release it. That's kind of it. Yeah, that's basically it. I didn't talk about Oppressing Roar, but you know that ability. I didn't talk about Tip the Scales, but you know that ability. Tip the Scales. Obviously you never use Tip the Scales on Dream Breath because Dream Breath is only ever 95% of the time you press Dream Breath as a 1-pointer. Very rarely you press it as a 2-pointer. You literally never press it as a 3-pointer, which means you'll never tip Dream Breath. The only 2 abilities you have then are Tip Fire Breath or Tip Spirit Bloom. I'd say 85% of the time I tip Fire Breath. Every now and then, if like a bunch of people are dead and I have like no essence and no way to heal them all, I'll tip Spirit Bloom. But I don't do that very frequently. That's it, man. That's the whole thing. This is 18 minutes long. Holy fuck. All right, goodbye.